In this resource orchestration scenario, we'll be deploying a production class LAMP stack to SoftLayer. LAMP stands for Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. As previously mentioned, any bank is under extreme cost restrictions, so efficient use of their resources counts. To add some additional flexibility to their cloud environment, our cloud administrator has decided to take a hybrid approach to cloud management. She's worked with IBM to add SoftLayer as a provider of cloud services to their organization. For this scenario, we'll be acting as the cloud administrator again. I'll begin by logging into the interface as the administrator. And again, I'll go to the self-service catalog. And this time I'll go to the Deploy Cloud Services category. The same self-service catalog could be used for on-premise, hybrid, or off-premise offerings. Instead of sorting through this list, I can type in LAMP to search for all the offerings that contain LAMP as part of the offering title. I'll click on the offering to deploy a LAMP environment off-premise, which will deploy a multi-tiered LAMP environment on the public cloud environment. For this particular instance, I'm using SoftLayer as my public cloud provider. I'll type in the name Anybank Prod Off-Prem. And here we see the parameters that are available for us to change for this particular offering. Many of these parameters have already been locked down because this is a production offering. We don't necessarily want everyone to be able to go in and change all the things that we would for a development environment. I'll scroll to the bottom and then click Next. And on this next page, I'll fill out the parameters for the second part, or the second image of this pattern. Remember that since this was a production instance, we've split the components between two different virtual images for better performance. I'll click Next again, and that will take me to the deployment summary page. We see the instance name I provided, the type of instance that will be created, and the fact that I haven't configured any additional capabilities on this particular instance because it's already going to be handled by SoftLayer. So I'll click Deploy, and now we can see that my request has been submitted. If I'd like to get some additional details about this request, I can click on the request history. And now we can see the details of this specific request. If I click on it, we see that it's currently in the approval step. And if you notice up at the top, the inbox now has a 1 by it, indicating that there's an action required, specifically here that approval is required. I'll claim this approval task, and then I'll click Accept to allow this process to continue. We see that the approval request has been successfully approved, and now it's going to be removed from our inbox. If we go back to the request history, we can see that we've moved on to the next step of the process, and that's the deployment step. We're waiting to check the status of the virtual system. While this is provisioning, let's actually take a look at this from the SoftLayer perspective. I'll open up a new tab and then log into SoftLayer as my SCO demo admin. I'll click Login. And now that I'm logged in, we can go look at the devices that have been deployed on this account. As we can see on the screen, there are two hybrid cloud instances that are being deployed out of the environment. These two instances represent the two images that were defined as part of my pattern definition. Within the interface, we can see that they're being deployed, but on the far right, they're not yet started. If we go back to IBM Cloud Orchestrator and refresh the request history, we can see that the process is still in progress from this perspective too, which is what we would expect. So let's go ahead and wait for this to finish. Alright, I've come back, I've clicked refresh, and we can now see that my request to deploy a LAMP environment off-premise is now completed successfully. So before we wrap up, let's go back and take a look at the specific classic virtual system pattern that was used to create this production LAMP stack off-premise. I'll go into the Virtual System Pattern Editor, I'll click LAMP Production Off-Premise, and when we scroll to the bottom, we see the two virtual system images that were used to define this particular pattern. We see on one of the images, we'll be installing MySQL, and on the other image, we'll use another script package to install PHP. Now if I return back to the SoftLayer customer portal, I can see that my two hybrid servers are now started. I'll copy the public IP address from one, and then we can actually go about testing this particular application. I'll put in the IP address /country app. We can see our sample application that displays the countries of the world. I'll type in states, and on the next page we can see the three countries that include states as part of their name. So in this scenario, we were able to use the exact same interface and the exact same self-service catalog to deploy and configure a production class LAMP stack on a public cloud provider, SoftLayer. From our end user's perspective, everything would be exactly the same, and we'd be able to leverage the additional flexibility of using a public cloud provider. For more information, please visit www.bitly.com/IBM Cloud O.